Hello and welcome to another episode of the N64 Japanese Eye. As always, this is the show where we cast our eyes over an N64 Japanese exclusive game and try to answer the simple question, can you play and enjoy it without knowing any Japanese whatsoever? Ever since I started this series, many of you have been asking me to cover Puyo Puyo Sun 64. I must admit, I've often overlooked the title for the simple reason that many reviewers of the time stated that Dr. Mario was essentially Puyo Puyo for a Western audience, and so I never really had much of an urge to get around to covering it. Well, I had an urge to play a puzzle game today, and being a fan of titles such as Bust a Move, I always get a kick out of some quirky gameplay and unique art styles, and so I slapped in Puyo Puyo Sun 64 and got on my way. From reading comments, it sounds like many of you will already be familiar with the gameplay, but for those who are new, a quick overview is that in a similar vein to Tetris, you have a vertical playing field, and your simple task is to match up slimes of the same colour into linking blocks of at least 4 to cause them to merge and disappear. As expected, the more you can link together and the more combos and chain reactions you can create, you will cause damage to your opponent in the shape of garbage blobs, hampering their progress by leaving your gameplay field and ending up on theirs. It's a simple concept, and like all excellent puzzle games, it at first seems really easy to pick up and play, but the mastery level can make this game one that you'll be playing for years to come. I would suggest that if you are brand new to the series, you enter the game's practice mode, where you can learn the basics at a pace that suits you and get to grips with chain forming. For single players, however, you'll mostly be spending your time in the arcade mode. There are 3 difficulty levels attached to the 3 characters you can choose to play as, and your chosen difficulty level will determine the game's story and the opponents you'll come up against. I must admit, although the cutscenes make no sense for a non-Japanese speaker, the art style, over-the-top animation does give you some sense of what is going on. There is also a good amount of multiplayer options for up to 4 players, and most interestingly for myself was the addition of the single player mission mode. This is where you will see a pattern on the screen, and your task is to play the game in real time and perfectly match up the pieces you are given to the pattern to create the chain. It starts off easy, but the further you progress into the game, the harder the patterns become, often needing you to think many moves ahead of yourself to try and think of interesting ways in which you can basically slap the pieces together exactly where they'll need to be at the end of the round. No matter what mode you are playing, and no matter who you're playing it with, the simple fact is this is an intensely addictive game, and one which will eat your time away before you even know it. Like many classic arcade puzzle games, there's just enough of a challenge to keep you coming back for more, even if you are defeated time and time again by your opponent. One of the criticisms levelled at this title in its first release was that the opponent AI was far away from the high levels experienced in other versions on different systems. I must admit, there were times when playing where I watched opponents in tournaments and they were playing almost with no sense of what was going on. They'd stack up huge piles for no reason and blow the game in a matter of seconds, which felt instantly cheap. Other times in the arcade mode, your opponent will absolutely blast you to pieces with some of the most over-the-top and clever moves. You'll literally have no chance to beat them, and you may as well restart the round. It's tough, but with the games typically being fast, frantic and high octane, you can overlook the occasional AI imbalance because it's just so fun to play. Graphically, I think you'll all have known what to expect here. Almost 16-bit graphics with cute characters, simple but clear visuals and a rock-solid frame rate. And you know, there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. This type of game doesn't need stunning visuals, although I would have liked to have seen the game in high res, which would have made the simple graphics look even more crisp than they already do. I also loved the character design in the game, and although I have absolutely no idea what any of their backstories are, it really doesn't matter. Why there's a game with a weird demon, white knight, dancing fish, and what looked like Buck Bumbles Jr. have all in common, I really don't think it needs explaining. Likewise, the game music doesn't need to be stellar, but what is here does the job perfectly well. You'll get a blast of cheery tunes and have a high tempo to match the gameplay. It doesn't become distracting, but if you do notice it, you'll find some of the pieces of music quite catchy. Personally, I really like the huge amount of sound effects in the game. And with so much action taking place in a short amount of time, it further enhances the pacing of the game, and so effects definitely complement the gameplay. The controls are naturally simple, using the D-pad or analog stick to move your slimes, and then the A or B button to rotate them clockwise or anti-clockwise. That's all you'll need to know to play, and everything is responsive and works as it should. You'll never notice the controls because you'll have no issue with them. It's how every game should be, but naturally not all games are as simplistic as this. And so to answer the required question, yes, you can pick up and play, love and become addicted to this Japanese exclusive title. Sure, Dr. Mario may have Nintendo's ever-present mascot and storyline that you can actually follow because it's all in English, but there's something quirky enough about this title to make it weird to watch, terribly fun to play, and if you're a fan of anime, then the art style will definitely be up your street. And so for today's topic of conversation, I'd love to know if this was a game that you'd already played before or if you're brand new to the series. I'd also love to hear from fans of the series which system you feel has the best Puyo Puyo game. Any suggestions for the next episode of the N64 Japanese Eye are also welcome in the comments section down below, and until next time.